so what do we have to do to counter the impact of money? We have to work. We have to work. Practically speaking, we know that Courtney needs money. It's not good enough for you to walk out of here and put your money in the jar. I'm being very straightforward. You need to get on the phone and you need to help Courtney raise money. You need to call the people who feel like we feel, and the first thing that you need to do is you need to ask them, what's it going to take to get people in office who feel the same way we feel? And let them tell you. And get the money from them for Courtney's campaign and get their vote. The second thing that we have to do is we've got to get out there and knock on a whole lot of doors. How many of you know what precinct you're in? Raise your hand. Okay. Courtney needs to know what precinct you're in. Jeff needs to know what precinct you're in. How many precincts do we have in this district?
14, I think.
14. If you had a precinct captain for 14 precincts, and if that precinct captain recruited 10 people to get out and knock on doors 2 Saturdays in July, do you realize 140 volunteers knocking on doors in July is likely to be as many volunteers as a congressional candidate has knocking on doors in July? You stop and think about the significance of that. We're in the middle of a congressional race here, and I suspect that neither one of the candidates in that race have 140 volunteers signed up to come out and knock on a Saturday. We've got 14 precincts in here. Every one of you needs to go to Jeff or Courtney and say, this is the precinct I'm in, and you can count on me to come out on a Saturday in July and knock on doors for Courtney. And let me tell you how we do it if you've never done it before. We give you a list of people who are likely to vote. There is no point in knocking on a door of someone who hasn't voted in the last 10 elections. And we know that. We've got a list, and we'll probably do what, 3 out of 4, 4 out of 4, Jeff? Something like that? Okay. We'll look at the list of people who voted in 4 out of the last 4 primaries. When you knock on that person's door, and you're talking to them about an election that they are going to vote in, you actually get a pretty nice reception because they want to be informed. Be honest, how many of you have walked into an election before and you're walking into the polling place and you're saying, who am I supposed to vote for again? Who did we vote for last time? Did you ever do that? Isn't that terrifying? That's how people get elected. That's how people get elected. Honey, what is that person's name? Oh, I saw that piece of mail and I thought, I don't want to vote for that guy that I thought was ugly. What's that other guy's name? You know, that's what people do. We've got to be out there knocking on the doors. And if Courtney has 10 people in each precinct who are committed to doing it, she's going to have a good number of volunteers. And if those 10 people and the precinct captain will get out there and find the great locations for signs, she's going to have signs up all over the place. Let me tell you something about signs. You know where you need to put a sign? Where a lot of people see it. Don't you think? So if you live off some lane somewhere out in the country that nobody else comes to because you live on a dead end, a sign in your yard probably ain't going to do a whole lot of good. But if on your way to work every day, you drive past a really busy intersection and it just so happens that the person that you go to church with lives right there, you know what you don't have to worry about? You don't have to worry about if they're Republican or Democrat. It's Sumner County. They're conservative, right? And most of the Democrats in Sumner County are really what? Republicans whose daddy or granddaddy hasn't died yet. Is that not right? So they won't admit that they're a Republican yet because they don't want the stress at the family reunion. So you go knock on the door and you say, there's a person running for office who we need to vote for, who's a good conservative person, a person who has an outstanding military career, who served this country, a person who's been decorated, a person who's been honored, have that push card with you. And what I want to do is I want to come and put a sign in your yard. You know what else I'll do? I'll take a Sharpie and I'll write my cell phone number on that sign. So if it blows over or you need me to come take it down, I'll come get it for you. How easy is that? And all of a sudden we've got several $1,000s worth of signs that pop up in this district. We're not going to have the money that an incumbent has. It's just not going to happen. But is that a reason that you don't play the game? Is that a reason that you don't fight for what you want? Is that a reason that you give up and go home?
No.
Yeah, those were questions. Thank you, Jeff. At least one person's listening. In closing, we have an outstanding candidate. An outstanding candidate. This has nothing to do with the incumbent. Because most of the people who vote are never going to meet the incumbent and they're never going to meet the challenger. So if we get out there and knock on the doors and make sure that people can read the Courtney Rogers story, Courtney Rogers has a good shot at their vote. And so if we look at the 60-some thousand people that are in this district, and we look at the 20-some thousand that are actually going to come out and vote in the primary, and if we can knock on every single one of those doors, and if we can give a personal testimony as to who Courtney Rogers is, you have got a good shot at that vote. So if we lose this race, it's going to be because we didn't get out and do the work. My question to you is, are you going to get out and are you going to do the work and are you going to help Courtney Rogers win? All right.